What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends in a boiling hot room about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is our cool friend, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Yeah! Woo! We love you!
Greg, why is it so hot in here?
Because we wanted to torture you. You saw it. You've been a kind of funny best friend for years. You've always seen him, and they can't be as hot as you guys say it is. It can't be as stressful as it is working at Kind of Funny. We brought you out here for 1 week, and we wanted to make sure you understood. We'll kill you here.
It's Wednesday, and I've been more tired than I can remember ever being.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like exhausted, and part of it is the heat, I assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, by like midday Monday, and I'd only just done KFGD, I was like, wow, I'm kind of tired. And then like halfway through Kind of Funny podcast, I was like, I want to take a nap.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
But yeah, I've really been enjoying this week. Thank you so much for bringing me out here.
No problem.
It's legitimately like meant the world to me. This is like living a dream, and so thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you for doing it. Thanks for being a part of all the shows you've done stuff here. I have so many questions for you about that and your career and everything else, because this is We Have Cool Friends. Each and every Monday, we invite our cool friends to the table, talk to them about their lives. You hopefully enjoy it. Remember, We Have Cool Friends, still our newest podcast, so we could use your help. Head on over to all the different podcast services, subscribe there, rate it, leave a review if you like. Head over to youtube.com/kindoffunny, like the episodes there, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, go and listen to the back catalog. Of course, you can go over to patreon.com/kindoffunny. Get the show ad-free if that's your bag. If it's not your bag, you could listen to it and watch it probably how you are right now. Worth pointing out, of course, thank you to our Patreon producers and our sponsors. We're filming this during Blessings Up and Comer Week, so we don't have those yet. So I got to kick to that, do that. You understand how it is. Exactly. You're seeing the sausage get made over here. So that's the thing. When this goes up, it'll have been weeks since your Up and Comer Week.
Yes.
If people weren't aware, of course, in January, Kind of Funny did our 4th anniversary. We went on patreon.com/kindoffunny and Kind of Funny Games and said, hey, we want to raise all this money to future-proof Kind of Funny and one day get a studio and hire more people. We just brought on this Barrett kid. He needs to eat. And
I really do. I'm so hungry.
And one of the things we had on the thermometer was this Up and Comer program, right? Where we wanted to bring in smaller creators from the community, not from the community, whatever. People who had an interesting voice and interesting takes, whether it be on the Kind of Funny Game side or the Kind of Funny side. Bring them in here and give them an all-expense-paid trip, basically. 1 week we fly out, we put you up, you come in every day and work and do whatever you want to do. This is the Wednesday of your Up and Comer Week. You've so far done 3 Kind of Funny Games dailies. You've done a reaction stream to this PlayStation State of Play. Yep. You're on We Have Cool Friends. You did the Kind of Funny podcast.
Yes.
Then you'll do 2 more Kind of Funny Games dailies. One with Perry Schneider from IGN. One with Alex Van Aken from OK Beast.
Yes.
And then you will do the Kind of Funny Games cast with me, Fran, and Tim.
Yep, exactly.
Walk me through all of this, because it's a community thing we put out there, right? It wasn't, we were looking on our own, we community sourced, right? We said, hey, everybody, who would you want to see have this opportunity? And obviously we got dozens and dozens and dozens of responses. But you, I think, and obviously Chloe, who was our Kind of Funny up-and-comer, obviously you guys rang through the most. And I think you did more than her even, in terms of people being like, hey, I'd love to do it, but Blessing's the guy. Blessing's the person you need to bring on the shows. What does that mean to you?
I've not known how to like process it, because it's one of those things where, OK Beast, I started it like 2016. And I think I mentioned this on one of the earlier shows, that it started off as kind of a portfolio for me, where I was like, okay, I want to work at an IGN or a Kind of Funny or a GameSpot, or like I just want to work in the industry, right? I want to have a voice in the industry, because at that point I was such a fan of pretty much everyone, right? I loved video games, but at a certain point I had come across Beyond, which like turned out to be like my first podcast that I ever listened to, and I was like, this is awesome, right? And
which flavor of Beyond did you run into? This
would have been 2013, so like leading up to The Last of Us.
Okay, so that's me, Colin, Goldfarb, was Clement still there? Yeah, no, Clement would have still been there. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, because he didn't. Yeah, it was PlayStation 4 that they laid him off the next day.
But yeah, like, I mean, I discovered that, and I was like, wow, this is awesome, right? And discovered Game Scoop right after.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, discovered Giant Bombcast, and then from there, Married to the Games was another pretty popular video game show that deserves a lot of love. Check out Married to the Games. But
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah.
Give me the pitch.
So Married to the Games is essentially 4 married men who talk about games and talk about news from the perspective of men who have families, men who have wives, men who work a 9 to 5.
Oh wow.
And it's so weird because I discovered this podcast when I was like 19, and so like it had nothing to do with me, but also like at the same time, right? Like it provided this weird sort of like perspective that was that spoke to me from like, I don't know, they're almost like father figures, but in games,
Sure.
right? Like I have a dad who's awesome and who's there and stuff, but like these guys are like, they're nerds, but they're also talking about life in a way, and talking about games in a way that I could relate to from that very specific perspective that I think they do a phenomenal job with. They're family friendly and all this stuff, so you can listen to the podcast with kids in your car. And it's led by Gabe Pertillo, who is just a very well-spoken man. Like he has a radio voice. He also African American, and so like I could relate to him on that level. But yeah, like Beyond, Giant Bombcast, and Married to the Games were like the first 3 podcasts that I really got into. And so from there I was very inspired to like kind of chase that same kind of thing, because I think at a certain point I was like, dude, you can just talk about video games and make that a job. And so
It's just that easy.
Yeah, I was like, it's just that easy. And so I would apply to IGN, and like looking back, like my applications were trash.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't look them up if you're at IGN.
Oh, trust me, they've been thrown away long ago.
Thank God, because like legit, my resume, my applications, my portfolio was trash because I hadn't done anything. Right, all I had done was I went to school. I went to school for communication, with I could focus on media. And so
Where'd you
go? University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana.
Oh yeah.
Fighting
Illini.
Fighting Illini, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, I went there, graduated, and I, tried to apply to some places, didn't work because once again, my portfolio was not there.
Even with that Patrick Klepek alma mater, you couldn't make it happen.
Wait, really? You went to University of Illinois?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
had no idea.
I made it. Maybe I just totally swung and missed, but I'm pretty sure Pat did.
If you did, that's awesome. But yeah, that's really cool. But
You didn't even know that. You're not getting a job with it. You know what I mean? Come on.
But yeah, from there, I think at a certain point I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make my own thing and make it my portfolio, because I realized what I had to do, because I heard people like you, people like Jared Petty, people like Colin talk about like, yo, if you're gonna do this, like you have to go for it. Like you have to do it, and you have to be consistent with it and do it every day, and make it happen. And even if you do even if you do everything right, you might not make it right. And so I've been doing it with that expectation, but also like, with the expectation of this is going to be a portfolio, and if it grows, it grows. But also if this goes nowhere, I'm doing it just because I love doing it, and just because I love making content, and just because it's an enjoyable thing for me to do.
So hard stop.
Yes.
Because we went into it, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, Beast. How do you describe it? It's your .com where you're podcasting and writing and doing everything else?
It's been weird to describe because we have okbeast.com, which is what it started off as, right? And that was essentially like articles, videos, podcasts, all that stuff goes up there, and it's kind of evolved more into like, we have our biggest focus is our podcasts at this point, because we have our OKB's podcast, which is our general gaming podcast, right? We have Stir Fry, which is our Patreon exclusive, like kind of funny podcast where we joke around and talk about whatever.
Sure.
And we just have like a whole suite of podcasts. We have Jumpmaster, which is our Apex Legends podcast, and podcast is a big focus for us. We do articles kind of sparingly.
It's dead. The written word's dead.
The written word is dead, right? Exactly. But we try to do them, and we try to make them great when we do them. And we do video also on youtube.com/okbeast. But I guess the easiest way to describe us would just be like a video games outlet, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because we're kind of spread out in all these different places. But circling back to your original question, right? Of like, how does that speak to me as far as like people,
everybody, so many people in the community calling you out?
Yeah, it feels strange because when I first started OK Beast, I was ingrained in the kind of funny community, and I would post in the Facebook group mainly all the time because I just found discussion in there so fun, and I found friends in there. I got to know people in there, and over the last 3 years since I started OK Beast, I think we've grown, and it's been such a weird growth because I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why people look at us and are like, oh yeah, like we're gonna support, like I'm gonna support these guys, right? Like we have a small but like great community of people in our Discord and people that interact with us on Twitter, and we talked about it on the Kind of Funny podcast about Imposter Syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a thing. It's been like a repeated thing with me more and more for a while, but this year especially because I feel like we've gotten to such a weird place where we did do our PAX panel, and I am here and doing all this stuff where I have no idea why everybody's like, oh yeah, blessing, but somehow for some reason it happens or it happened. And so I don't know if that answers your question. But
no, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, and I think it obviously speaks to the people who not only nominated you, but the other people who got nominated, right? That I think everyone suffers from that, right? And the imposter syndrome for sure, but then like, why do people connect with you?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's I put you in the same category as I always talk about with Roger Pokorny, right?
Yes.
Where it's a tired story, but bear with me if you've never heard it. Of when we broke away to do Kind of Funny, everybody was making videos and podcasts about, all of us leaving IGN to go start our own thing. And I was clicking through on YouTube, folding clothes, listening to all of them. And everyone got a few minutes or whatever. And then it was clicking on Roger's video about it and not knowing it, but 20 minutes later being like, I'm still listening to the same podcast. I didn't skip this one. And not because the other ones were crap or anything, but like this was on a different tier where I was engaged with it. He was great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I listen to OK Beast, I see the same things from you. Where the reason it works and what you guys have there is what I'd like to think we have too, is that a plethora of engaging personalities that know how to work with each other and work off of each other.
Yeah.
And so when you jump in there, right, and you get going with it and you listen to it, the time's slipping away because it is the intro starts, and like your most recent one this week, right, is like you guys arguing about DJ names.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, like it's like, and I know how people listen to our shows where it's like they started like, where are the time codes? I'm just here for the headline.
Yeah.
People are there for you guys and your personalities, right?
Exactly. It's been such an interesting thing because this year we launched our Apex Legends podcast, Jumpmaster, which has brought in a brand new audience for us because we had launched that right when Apex Legends came out because the game launched, and since it was a surprise launch, we're like, well, nobody else is on this beat, really like super hard yet. Let's try and be the first ones there. And we got to be one of the first ones there, and Jumpmaster through that opened up a big audience for us to where now we have people bleeding over into OKB's podcast, and they're like, wow, these guys really haven't talked about games in 30 minutes. And like I started this podcast forever ago expecting to hear about like whatever Control or Borderlands or whatever, and they're still talking about DJ names or whatever random topic that Blessing brought up to Alex, and so it's been an interesting thing because of that. But yeah, it is. I mean, it is a comparable thing to Kind of Funny where people are coming to us because of our personalities, right? And I do like, Alex, Ian, Brandon, me, right? Like I say I don't know, but at the same time, right, I think we do have such great chemistry, and the other guys especially. Ian is just such a breath of fresh air, just out there dude who's willing to bring. He's almost like Nick, where like Nick is willing to say the most random of things.
We don't need more.
Yeah, right. And he's kind of like our Nick, where he's goofy, he's weird, but he brings that energy. And so like we do have a wonderful cast between the four of us. But yeah, even so, right? It still shocks me that people are willing to support and put my name out there because there are so many people in the community,
so many
doing
people who
awesome
do
work.
this.
Yeah, right. You're wearing
exactly.
a Snowbike Mike shirt,
yeah.
right? And every time I see Snowbike Mike on a screen, or anytime I even meet Snowbike Mike in real life, speaking to him face to face, you can just tell right there, like he has a great radio voice, he has a great stage presence. He's so talented at what he does, and there's so many other talented people too. And so for it to be me, just still blows my mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then, what has that been like being here? That it's always that interesting thing that I've gotten tastes of it with Kind of Funny Games Daily, and how the first steps to getting the Up and Comer program were opening our doors to people who were fans or in the industry or whatever. And it wasn't until like the third or fourth one where you've seen how it is here.
Yeah.
People walk in, I'm heads down on the Games Daily doc. I'm like, oh, hey, well, do you need coffee, need a water? No, all right. They sit down. I'm like, I'm going to ignore you. Oh, no, I understand. Then I print it off. I come in here. We sit down, and I finally look at the other person. And it wasn't until the third or fourth guest where I looked over and saw them shaking. And I was like, oh, fuck, right. This is a big deal for you. Like, this is my normal Wednesday morning, and I'm thinking of the 15 other things I got to do. But, like, this is a huge fucking deal. Like, I'll never get to walk through those doors like that, right? Like, I remember walking in, I remember being outside of IGN with my suitcase looking up and being like, holy shit, I made it. Like, I'll never know what it's like to walk in here as an employee, let alone a guest, let alone someone who's getting a shot like this program or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how do you wrestle? Was it a thing, or were you like, I got this, I'm ready to go?
I've been so nervous. It's been a thing where before every show, I'm like, the shaking has stopped. I definitely was shaking on Monday when I first came for Games Daily. Halfway through Games Daily, I felt a bit more comfortable. But it came back right before Kind of Funny Podcast, right? Where Kind of Funny Podcast, I was like just nervous to even jump in because there's so much going on that show, especially with four other people. but yeah, like it has been a thing where I feel like I've been slowly acclimating. I've been slowly getting more comfortable, but it still feels weird when I start to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I've listened to so many hours of Kind of Funny in general, and so like, you know, right now it does feel like a face-to-face conversation, right? Because we're in it. But like, you know, when I start to think about it, like, oh yeah, I've listened to, you know, I guess 7 episodes of We Have Cool Friends at this point.
Sure.
Maybe.
I'm not counting them.
I've listened to all the episodes of We Have Cool Friends, right? And
Yeah.
it's the thing that doesn't hit me until like, you know, either right before or right after.
Right.
But yeah, I still do get that. I am still like acclimating to it after 3 days.
So what I love about this show in general is talking to people and learning things I don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
For you in particular, because we've done a lot of work now together this week, and we've been around each other, and we've, you know, went to wrestling and whatever. I still haven't talked to you about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I find so fascinating, is that you are literally the embodiment of what we talk about with the best friends, right? Where, you know, you listen to us, and it's always that thing when I meet somebody and they're like, oh, it's so weird, right? I know everything about you, and you don't know. I'm like, no, I know about you. I know that you like games, and I know you do these things, and I've seen you at PAX, and you were prom king. Like, you know what I mean? I know Bussy Jr., of course, but I don't know you, right? Like, so, like, number one, what do you don't, OK Beast isn't your job, right?
No, yeah.
What do you
OK
do?
Beast, so I work for a commercial real estate company doing like real estate work. Essentially like
putting the sign up outside.
Oh no, I'm not. No, mainly like admin stuff, like transactional stuff of like getting leases signed, setting out leases, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I don't want to get too detailed into it because
Sure.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say.
That's your real world.
Yeah, that's my real world, right?
Exactly.
And so like OK Beast is very much like a passion project, right? Like it, like I would call it a part-time job, but even still, like with the amount of money that we make on Patreon, it doesn't feel right to even call it a job.
No.
It is definitely like a side project. It's our passion project.
It's
right?
your hustle.
It's our hustle, right? The thing we do because we love it, right? And we want to make it legit. We want to turn that into like something that we get to do full time. And so yeah, that's like, yeah, I guess that's me.
Yeah,
and like
you're living in Chicago.
no, I'm living in Seattle.
Okay.
Chloe's in Chicago.
From Chicago.
But I am from Illinois.
Yeah,
Grew up in Champaign. Moved to Seattle about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And now I've been in Seattle.
Is it the
ever
job
since.
that brought you out there?
It's a very interesting story. So
Here we go. Good. I get one.
I lied. It's not interesting, but it's a story.
No, I'll be able to do a podcast with it, but
let me
nobody's
set
gonna catch.
expectations. So I grew up in Champaign, Illinois. Let's see. I went to school there. I went to University of Illinois, like I said before.
Sure.
And maybe I think Patrick Klepek might have went to University of Illinois Chicago.
No, actually, I've confirmed through DM. I am correct.
Really?
He went there. Yeah, because that was that was the thing with Klepek, is that I remember he was, I don't even know who you would compare him to, if anybody in the community right now.
Yeah.
But he was the thing of when I, was coming up and I wanted to do this. I remember, I was a huge oneup.com kid because that community was so great, and me doing blogs and having groups. And I'll never forget trying out for that internship job they did the first time, and I didn't get it. But Patrick Klepek got it.
Really?
And I was reading his thing, and I was going to Mizzou, and I'm reading his thing. He's like, I'm from the burbs, and I love Portillo's, and I go to
awesome.
University of Illinois. I was like, fuck this isn't awesome at all.
That's
this
hilarious.
kid's knock off me, and he's getting all the opportunities. He's talking to Dan Shue. I'm fucking pissed.
Yeah. And now he's doing actual journalism.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, he didn't give up the ghost like I did. I'm like, you know what? It'll be cooler to talk about pizza on Instagram stories.
Oh man. So yeah, I grew up in Champaign, went to University of Illinois, and then at the time I just graduated and was looking for work, and I was living with my sister who worked at, I think for Coca-Cola or something, and at a certain point she got a call from Amazon, and Amazon was like, hey, we want you to come out and work for us, right? They're essentially recruiting her. And since I was still in the job search, she was like, hey, why don't you just come with me to Seattle? And I was like, well, I grew up in Champaign. I feel like I'd gotten really all I needed to get out of Champaign. And so,
I do not need to stay in Champaign any longer.
Yeah, no offense to Champaign, but like, it's a small college town, right? There's only so much to do, right? There's only Champagne's a lovely city, but at a certain point I was like, I'm ready to expand my horizons, learn more about a new place. Sure, I'll live in the Pacific Northwest. And so from there, we moved to Seattle, and it was like right when I moved to Seattle that I ended up like getting another job, and I've been enjoying it. But OK Beast has definitely been like the thing where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna work my full-time job, and it's a great job. And on the side, I'm going to put all like my passion and love into OK Beast as like my side project.
How many times have you almost quit?
OK Beast or my
No. OK Beast.
I was gonna say,
the side project.
I don't know if I ever have almost quit. Like there have been times where I've been frustrated from like like working with people. We've like having back and forths as far as like arguments and stuff like that. But it's it's never really gotten to the place of like
I don't know about you. It's too goddamn
It is
hot.
very hot,
I'm actually using
and
a paper
I
towel
am
if you're an audio listener.
probably
I'm
glistening
dying.
also. But yeah, it's been one of those things where OK Beast has had so much of my passion. I've believed in it so much as a product that even when we do have our lows, my immediate thought is like, okay, how do we pick ourselves up, as opposed to quit.
Yeah.
You know?
That is the test, I think.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Is that how bad do you want it? And I always talk about it like, I would say since the 4th grade, right? I wanted to write about it because of that Game Pro and all this different stuff. But I'm lucky enough that me and Patrick, right, I really do feel are that first generation of kids that grew up with it knowing we wanted to do that, which meant there weren't as many kids trying to do it or having a path to it. So when we got through, I think, channels that don't exist anymore, right? Because I was, my story. I got hired at IGN, contacted, interviewed, and hired within 24 hours. Never visited, never did. That's when we were doing the final rounds of interviews at IGN when I was still working there in like 2014. I remember coming out of they'd do SWAT interviews where they'd put somebody in a room and they'd get 5 different IGN editors, 10 different IGN editors coming in at a time to talk to them. And I remember when the kids they'd leave and then we'd all sit around and talk about it, and people would tear them apart because they didn't know this or they didn't say that. But when I'm like, I get they weren't, and it's like honest because we're in such a different time. But like, I remember when I got hired, I remember when I walked in, I already signed, I had a desk and everything. And Craig Harris, I came back from my first demo, and Craig Harris, who at the time had already been there like 10 years, right? Was like, oh, cool. What was the game? Oh, it was great. X, Y, and Z. Great. Who made it? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you need to know. And I'm like, why do I need to know who the developer is? He's because they've made other games and you can compare. And it was like, now somebody's like, oh, they slipped up who's a first party or whatever. And it's like, they were getting 20 questions from 30 different people. Like, there's no way to do that. So I feel now more than ever, I see so many best friends and community members and just, audience members in general go out and try to do this. And it's that thing where it will test you over and over and over again of how bad do you want this? Because it's so hard to make this dream happen.
Yeah, and that's been my thing, right? Of like, I've had to justify it to myself multiple ways, right? Where like, yeah, this is gonna be my portfolio so that I can apply to larger places. But at the same time, I want to build this into its own bigger thing in case applying to other places doesn't work. At the same time, I am doing this to build my own skill, to get better at video editing, to get better at podcasting, to get better at doing everything that this involves, right? And so I'm justifying it to myself that way. And like as like a fourth way to justify it to myself, I am doing this for my own enjoyment, for my own love. If this goes nowhere, I am okay with it. I am fine with that. And that's something I've kind of had. That's almost been like a pill I've had to swallow because, like I said, I've heard people in the industry talk about how difficult this industry can be to get into, even if you do everything right. Yep. And so I've taken that to heart, and I've gone into it with the understanding that like this might not go anywhere. And where OK Beast has gone, from 2016 until now, I am more than like satisfied and happy with what it has become, with the community we built, with the relationship that me, Alex, Ian, and Brandon have built with each other and with the people that surround us. I'm like more than happy with what it is.
That's awesome. But that's not it, right? You're gonna make it happen.
We're gonna keep going.
You're gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
So how do you wrestle with it, I guess, then these days? Of like, you built it to be this avenue in this portfolio. It clearly is, but it's become more than that. Yeah. So do you waver? Is the goal to go and make OK Beast a smaller kind of funny, bigger than kind of funny one day, obviously? Yeah. Or is it to still use it that you want to use it to go somewhere?
This has been a question I think all of us have been asking ourselves on OK Beast, as far as like, where do we see this going? And it's definitely evolved into just like, from a portfolio to like, okay, OK Beast has gone somewhere now that my goal, first and foremost, I would probably say is, we're going to build OK Beast and we're going to build that up into a brand that can stand alone and that can, be the next kind of funny or be the next Giant Bomb or be the next Easy Allies, right?
Be in that conversation.
But at the same time, I think we also have the understanding that like, I know, like, I think it was Alex who, and I hope he's fine with me sharing this. I'm doing it anyway. But he like got laid off like a year or so ago. No, 2 years ago, right? And he was able to use some of the work that he did, that like he's been doing for OK Beast, right? The graphic stuff, building the audience, doing all that stuff, in order to justify, or not in order to justify, but in order to like present that to get hired at his next job, right? Gotcha. He was able to get like a job in marketing because of the stuff that he did with OK Beast, right?
Sure.
As long as OK Beast is able to do that stuff for us, like like we're good with wherever it takes us, right?
I guess that's the interesting question too that I haven't thought about is like clearly you want to do this, you want to be part of this industry side of it. What are the goals? And not naming names and whatever, but are like is Alex looking to do more marketing stuff and like as you go down the list, they all want to do different things?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing where like we want to do what we want to do. Right? Ian is one of us, right? I don't think Ian wants to get in the industry whatsoever. I think he's fine doing this as like hey guys, let's have fun, let's podcast, let's goof off and talk about video games.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And that works for him.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah. Right. Whereas I think Brandon does this maybe for similar reasons, right? I don't think like Brandon is a dude who has a family, has a wife, all this stuff, right?
Sure.
He's not really hardcore trying to like get hired by IGN because like IGN.
Let's tear up the entire family. We'll move into a one bedroom with 4 different roommates and try to make it happen.
San Francisco. It's like I don't think that's what Brandon is trying to do, right? I think Brandon is also doing this for the joy of doing this, and I think Alex is doing this for a similar thing. But I think he does enjoy like building the brand, building the audience, and I think he enjoys doing that. Whereas me, like from the get go, I've always been like, I want to do this so I can be a part of the video games industry, get a job in media, do all that stuff, right? Yeah.
So then, what's the dream now?
Oh man, I guess to continue, right? Like it would be awesome to like continue to grow OK Beast. It'd be awesome to get hired by Kind of Funny or get hired by any other outlet that might see value in me. But I mean for me, I guess the goal is to continue to make content and continue to I don't know, do this in a way that I'm satisfied with, do this in a way that I believe in. I don't know if that makes sense, but like,
no, totally.
Yeah, feel like I'm putting a product out there that is good and positive and that I guess makes sense for my sensibilities. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm watching you. Let's see what's happening. Okay. But brass tacks, like where do you want to work? Do you want it? I mean, you want to do OK Beast? Do you want to be I mean, like you'll take anything, but like dream job.
If I could like close my eyes and like open it and like somebody has like a document in front of me, I mean, I would love to work for Kind of Funny. Yeah. I would love to get involved,
Sure.
Here. But even so, like OK Beast is kind of where.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like, yeah.
If you came here, what would your dream show be? What would you want to do? What would you want to make?
PS I Love You XOXO probably.
PS, you want to bring back PS I Love You?
Yeah.
XOXO. Okay.
Once again, like when I first started, right, it was with Beyond, and I enjoyed like at that point, right, I hadn't just bought, but I had a PS3. It was leading into the PS4 because it was 2013 when I first got started listening, right?
Yeah.
And that show was just the most like eye-opening thing as far as like video game content in general, podcasting in general.
Sure.
But also like building a community. I think I can't remember when Beyond 300 or whenever happened.
Yeah.
But I remember like listening to it and being like, wow, like, there's such passion behind this product that, I think that would be a thing for sure that I think at that time, right, I think my dream was like, I want to get hired by IGN and I want to be on Beyond.
Yeah. And now you want to bring back
the
predecessor, or no, what again?
The successor.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right. See, I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw it on the subreddit today where one of the comments again was just talking about how great you are. I see it over and over again. Everybody loves you. You're so great. And it was like, this is so cool to see Greg's dream of Kind of Funny come to fruition, right? Of having you, like, I nothing makes me happier. And I got to talk about this recently with Andrea and Imran, right? But when I'm doing some job or whatever and I get off and I'm able to open up Spotify or YouTube in this case and like go to Games Daily and see you and Xavier doing Games Daily, right? And like having your own spin to it and having your own thing and having this vibe. And
that's the thing, like, doing Games Daily with Xavier felt like a dream, right? It felt like a dream come true. And I was like, I got to do the transitions. I got to do, enter the show and do all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And, that's the thing that, like, I mean, at first, when I first started doing OK Beast, I was like, wow, this is actually very, very difficult. But at a certain point, like, I don't know, being in that seat felt, amazing. I feel like it's where it felt right is where I don't know if that's doing too much.
I love
Basically, I'm trying to say is I'm trying to take your job, Greg Miller.
I've noticed.
Take it.
You buried it. You work here already. What happens if I get fired?
The ship goes down with you.
Thank you. very
But
much
basically,
so.
I'm trying to say it's a dream come true to like get the opportunity and get to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that thing of like, for me, the dream obviously is bringing in people and it is bringing in the right people and bringing in Barretts and Joeys and Andys and everybody, right? People from the community. Because, from the beginning, we talked about this, that we weren't building it for you, we were building it with you, which I think inherently means that it would be out of the blue if we just hired somebody you had never heard of before. And clearly that's not how any of this works, right? Like, I mean, even like when somebody like Imran falls in our lap as a part-timer, you already know him. He's already a thing that's existed and been in the universe.
Yeah.
And so like that's the thing for me is we, get serious about looking for a new studio space and expanding the roster and what is 2020 going to look like and beyond. It is that idea that I want it to be the right people and I want it to be everybody. And that's the thing is I wish right now I could have you close your eyes and I pull out the contract and slam it down, but
like,
we're not there, right? But it's that thing is I want you to know that you will make it. Whether it's with us or IGN or GameSpot or Giant Bomb or whoever, however it all nets out, you will make it. Or you'll make OK Beast a thing.
Yeah.
I have no doubt whatsoever. And I don't say that as a thing I say to everybody. I don't say that as something that I would just tell to Joe Schmo in the street with a Twitter account. I say that because of the passion these kids had to get you on here, the passion when I listen to it, the fact that I listen to OK Beast for fun. You know what I mean? That I don't even listen to KFAF. But you know what I mean? Like when I go home, I want to hear games and I want to hear it from a different perspective and I want to have a voice to it. And that's what I love the most about you.
Thank you.
Is that you have a voice and you have opinions and you have, sometimes they're wrong and they're about Donkey Kong or whatever. But like you're there.
Donkey
you know
Kong
what I mean?
64 the GOAT. You know what I'm saying, Bless?
Yeah.
Fuck.
My boy.
Oh, Jesus God.
That's why me and Barrett have become such
we
great
on a
friends.
we on a fucking
Bad-
vibe, you
bad
know.
taste.
We both have bad taste together though.
Yeah.
That's true too. That is true too. So what, I guess, do your parents and your family, what do they think of this?
Oh, they're just very unaware.
They're like, he's gonna be in real estate forever. Don't worry about it.
Like when I kept trying to tell them like, I'm going down to SF for a week to do like this video game podcast, and they're like, all right, whatever. And then like this week when my sister, my second oldest sister, she saw my Instagram posts of like me and Xavier Woods and like me on the show and doing all this stuff, right? And like she called me up and she was like, why don't you tell me that any of this stuff was happening? I was like, I tried to tell you, video game podcast.
So do they not get what OK Beast is? Do they not understand that?
My sisters pretty much
How many
get it.
sisters do you have?
3 older sisters.
Okay.
I don't think my parents really. I think my mom thinks that I do radio.
Sure. Of course.
But
My
yeah,
dad thought I did a magazine for years and years until I
Yeah.
showed him IGN's back end. And I'm like, there is no paper.
yeah, and it's interesting trying to explain it. I just never really felt compelled to explain it because I feel like one is such a weird thing.
Yeah.
But two, I think they get it enough.
Okay.
To where
so they know games are your passion. They know that you do this.
They
with
know
your
I'm really into
friends.
video games. They know I do stuff about video games, and for
Yeah.
them, like that's enough. And they asked me about it. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, you still doing the radio thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And it's going. And they're like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "It's going pretty good."
Yeah.
You know, and like now, I mean, the fact that we have a Patreon now, kind of helps justify it to people more. Where I'm
Sure.
like, where I can put a number. And I'm like, we make this much a month. They're like, oh, that's really like they get really excited about it. And so, they understand enough. What
Have they
I
always
do.
been supportive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've always been supportive. Because I think they know, like, I know my parents growing up when I was in high school, they got so tired about how much I played video games. They're like, you need to like focus on studying in school because I didn't get the best grades. I definitely should have spent more time studying, but they always pointed to video games as the issue. And I was always just like, it's not video games that's the issue. It's just that I don't believe that I can do this, which is the thing I look back now and I realize. But at the time I was just like, nah, school is hard.
Yeah.
Now that I'm actually like, you know, doing stuff with video games and actually like, I've actually made it a part of my life. They understand it way more.
That's awesome.
Especially now I can give them a number for our Patreon and they're like, okay.
Okay,
We
so
get it.
you're not just you're doing this radio show to no listeners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Since you've been here a week and obviously or half a week, you have half a week left here. We're going to GameSpot right after this, and I will tell you ahead of time, not to spoil you too much. They have AC at GameSpot, so we're doing pretty good there. You know, just letting you know.
Perfect.
What do you think we don't understand about the audience? You coming from the audience, you coming from the community. What do you look around, or when you're in and you just don't get what we don't do, or something like that?
That's an interesting question that I almost don't know how to answer because I
Sure.
feel like watching and listening to you guys, like I've listened to you guys so much that I feel like I understand where you guys are coming from. Like whenever you guys are explaining what Kind of Funny is, I feel like I get it 100% in a way where like I look at what some like. I mean, these are YouTube comments are always going to like, be divisive or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like whenever I see like a negative comment about like a specific thing about how like, oh, this is back before there were time codes on shows, right?
Sure.
Like, why aren't there time codes? And I would always read those YouTube comments like they probably just don't have time, right? And you guys like made time, right? And you guys were able to figure that out, which is awesome. But for the most part, I feel like you guys nail it, right?
Okay.
I feel like you guys are pretty good about like, with the Kind of Funny World Tour this year.
Yeah.
I was able to go to Vancouver and hang out there, and you guys, I think, get the fact that your audience is comprised of real people, and people who are, just as passionate about video games as you guys are, right? And you guys aren't above, meeting people, shaking hands, connecting with people, listening to people, hugging people, being with people, right? And I think that's what I think that type of relationship is what builds a strong audience. And like, I've taken what I've seen from you guys and have implemented that with OK Beast, where now I try my hardest to like, know our audience by name, which is a lot easier for us because we're very small.
Sure.
Especially compared to Kind of Funny, which like you guys have tons of viewers, but for us, like, our Discord has been growing and growing, especially since our Apex Legends podcast. But like,
how successful was that? Is that like are you the number one Apex Legends podcast in the world kind of thing?
I don't know if we are still.
Okay, but for a while.
For a month or so.
Nice.
I haven't checked in a while. We might still be. I just haven't checked.
Are you sick of playing Apex Legends?
I am so sick of Apex Legends. And probably people who listen to that podcast are going to hear this and be like, what the heck, man? But like, dude, it's hard playing a game.
Hats, their OK Beast hats, throw them
Yeah,
away.
I
believed in you.
Taking back my Patreon. But like, like I've been trying to connect with people as much as possible because also like, I value everybody that listens to our stuff because I still can't believe that people are out there listening to us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I say all that to say that I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job and I think you guys are killing it.
For a student of the game, right, you're still listening to so much, still watching so much from other people.
Yep.
What do you think other people do really well that we should do or that we could do better? Because that's always the rough part, right? Like where it's like I'll talk when me and Jeff Gersman run into each other at like Judges Week. It's that furious catch up, but like that's not the minutia of what your Tuesday 10 a.m. show looks like, your schedule looks like, right? So I never have that opportunity to go listen to other people's shows and be like, oh, that's a great idea, and I should do this.
Yeah, I think like, and you guys have actually been building this a lot, especially within the last year, right? I think diversity of people on the show and diversity of opinion. I think bringing on Imran on the show, I think was a great decision because like he, especially listening to like the Borderlands conversation from Gamescast, right? Like, I think he's willing to put out like a different opinion, right? And that's going to happen with whoever you bring on, right? Whoever you bring on, they're going to be able to bring on their own ideas, and bring on their own opinions, and bring on their own takes. And having people like Imran, having people like Andrea, rest in peace, having new voices on the show, doing the thing that you guys did with the Game Informer on Gamescast about a month or so ago, like that. I think that type of stuff is doing real good for making the content more varied in terms of like what kind of things are talked about. And so like maybe like a voices thing, because like I listen to a lot of Giant Bomb, right? And they have Giant Bomb cast and Giant Beast cast, which are just two totally different casts of characters on those shows, right? And each of those shows are like 2 to 3 hours long, right? And so like they have time to and they have a lot of people on the podcast, and so they have like time to spend to like really break down what they're talking about and really like get into the minutia of things. And I enjoy that in podcasts. But at the same time, like Kind of Funny Games Daily is like an hour long, but it is also every day, right? And so like you guys really get into news sometimes, really dive into news, but at the same time you got to keep it concise because you can't have like an hour long conversation just about microtransactions or whatever it is.
Oh man, we haven't talked enough about those. So
yeah. And so like does that all make sense?
Oh,
Did I
100%.
speak gibberish?
No,
Okay.
you're nailing it.
Yeah.
No. I'm soaking it all in. Sorry if I'm not being more
Yeah,
active.
no, it's fine. I'm trying to make sure that what's coming out of my mouth is making sense. But
no, you're doing great. You're doing
great.
great.
And I guess that does bring me to like, this isn't. I don't know if this is the thing you can fix because this is just how things are structured, right?
Lay it on.
And this is also my taste, but I also like longer podcasts.
Yeah.
Which is why I listen to Giant Bomb, why I listen to Married to the Games and these different podcasts.
I could not believe my eyes. I was like doing the when I looked at the subreddit the other day and somebody's like, "Hey man, I really love shorter podcasts."
Yeah.
And like everybody got in there and being like, "You're wrong." Everyone's like, "They should go longer. I hate it that they're short." Yada,
It's
yada,
so
yada.
interesting because like I see both opinions. Like people either like very short podcasts or very long podcasts.
Yeah.
With almost like little in between.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, like yeah.
How do you consume our content? Do you watch videos or do you listen to podcasts?
I listen to podcasts mainly
Yeah.
because I listen to it a lot during work, a lot during my commute. In fact, it's even harder for me to like watch your video shows.
Sure.
Or stuff that like has a heavy focus on
Oh, totally.
video.
Yeah,
So
I
like
understand.
yeah, I very much just enjoy listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can just do that while doing other things.
100%. I mean, that's what, I think was the hardest thing for us to wrap our heads around in the early days was the fact that we thought we were YouTubers. In reality, no, we're podcasters.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure. Yeah, please lay any
Yeah.
mom, yeah.
So
People are sick of hearing from you. You've been on too many stuff this week.
exactly. So for you,
Yeah.
being Greg Miller and being able to have
What does that mean?
I don't know. But like looking at the community and looking at OKB specifically,
Sure.
what is your take on what we do? Because I feel like we're not weird because like I think what we do is what OKB does is defined at this point what we are.
Yeah.
But like seeing us kind of grow in the community and seeing like I guess what we are now,
Yeah.
what has been your take?
You are of the handful of podcasts and groups I know that I look at and I'm like, I can't believe you're not bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's the same thing I know people look at us all the time. I mean, I see those subreddit threads too. Like, oh my God, the guys still only have 250,000 subs, 240, whatever it is. Like, I can't blah, blah, blah. And it's that thing that we learned, and it works for us, obviously, right? Is that it'd be great to have, we talked about this, right? It would be great to have 3 million subs or whatever. But in the reality, it doesn't matter as long as we are putting out the content to an audience that's receptive and supporting us, and this cycle goes on. It's the same thing for you guys, where I look at you and I'm just like, we're in this weird thing in games journalism, games press, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where as now anybody can do it, and that's great. So many people are doing it that it's that fractured glass thing I always talked about, right? Where it's like you throw down the pane of glass that is games journalism, press, enthusiast press, whatever you want to say, and it shatters. And you have all these different shards and pieces that can be big or small, but they're never as big as the pane should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that there's people doing work like yourself, right, that I can easily see being picked up and plugged into IGN, but they're not, right? And because there's so many people who could be, or that it does happen to, obviously, is crazy. And that's the thing of like, I can't solve how to make us bigger, let alone how to solve the idea of getting more people to come listen to you guys. Hopefully stuff like this helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's always with the up-and-comer opportunities, right? Not the program, but having people on Games Daily. It was always awesome to see like, Dad of War come back, write me back and be like, dude, thank you. I had so many, you know what I mean? Because like on a varying level of who comes on, like 100 more people coming in for a stream or downloading an episode or watching a video is awesome. Like that's so much change. Whereas for us, it wouldn't be like as noticeable as if that happened.
Yeah.
And so
I was gonna say thank you for doing that too. And
no
I've already seen growth for
Oh, yeah?
OKBs. Yeah,
That's
just
great.
being here for the last 3 days.
yeah.
And so yeah, like once again, like we really appreciate that.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, that's what this is all about, right? Like, I mean, that's, I think I always talk about it when I went to that first VidCon and learned from them that, there isn't competition, there's just collaboration. And everybody should be helping everybody. I know that sounds silly now because obviously everybody works together and talks to we're going to GameSpot after this, right? And that's not weird. But you have to understand that, like, for me and my tutelage and coming up through the industry, like, there was a time when GameSpot wasn't allowed to talk to IGN. And that was a completely different regime and different people. But, like, that's how it used to be. And so to get to this idea where, everybody's trying to help each other, like, I want people to come on here and get huge. I want people to come on here and get way bigger than us. And I want that to be, this ever-going thing that everybody helps everybody out. Because, again, like, for me, I don't think we're ever going to have 9 million subs, but, the hope is that, we have one day, I don't even know, whatever, X amount of the right subs, right?
Yeah.
When I go over and I do Rooster Teeth stuff or Achievement Hunter stuff, right, and I play the wrestling heel, and all the people get in the comments like, I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah.
There's always 5 that are like, this is hilarious. I'm going to go subscribe. And that's the person I want. That's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, I know we talked about this again on your Kind of Funny podcast a little bit. People in our community get scared about growth. We hear because I think they think of it as being tomorrow they wake up and there's 1 million people on this channel that are and that's never what's going to be. Those days are over. Us leaving IGN was the first or was like the big explosive growth for the channel.
Yeah.
And from there on out, we're not going to have another moment like that, right? Unless we were to Austin Creed leaves WWE and we hire him, right?
Yeah.
Like it has to be like something that crazy. And so we're fine with that, and that's great. And what that means is that we're going to get the right people from here on out. You know, and even today there was a thread on the subreddit, right, as we're recording this, of like pulling from, I guess, on Sacred Symbols, Colin was like, oh man, like the PlayStation State of Play. They need a thing. They need somebody like Greg Miller, right, or whatever. And there was this conversation, and the low thing was like they'd never let Greg be Greg. Look at the EA Play thing. Greg was Greg, and the internet hate came in. And I read that comment and like broke my brain of like, yeah, well, I would never take an opportunity where I couldn't be me. You know what I mean? Like when you talk about the Borderlands show, or you talk about EA Play, or you talk about any of these different things, you're talking about people wanting to work with us because we are us, unabashedly. And so that's the thing of going and being a wrestling heel on something, or, you know, hardcore tabletop. Like, I get people aren't going to like that, but the people that fucking like it are going to come watch and be part of the community forever.
Awesome.
And so did that answer your question?
Yeah.
You know how a Greg Miller answer will ramble and ramble and ramble.
But no, I think that all makes sense. And
so, I mean, that's always the thing with you guys of like, and you guys being the community, everybody doing these different podcasts. It's this idea that I want to see you all grow and succeed and find those people, but I don't know. You know, you wore your Spawn on Me shirt yesterday. Like, why the fuck is Spawn on Me not so much bigger?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't as we sit there and it's like, why aren't there more minority voices or people of color doing it? And it's like, you've got a podcast, a team that makes so much amazing content. You know what I mean? And gets guests, right? Like, you know, at PAX, I was running around trying to find Andrew Goldfarb to go drink. And I was running by as Khalif was doing like his outro. He's like, oh, can we get an interview? Yeah, sure. And then he tagged me in the post that he put, and he's got like all these names of different people from different sectors of like, everyone's attention is so shattered, and our podcasts and shows are fighting for the attention that God of War is fighting for. Like, you know what I mean? Like that TV and movies and every other passion is fighting for.
Yeah.
And that's where it just gets so crazy of like when I asked you how many times you've thought about quitting, right? It's that thing of, I can't imagine doing it this way. You know what I mean? Like I can't imagine. I had people always are like, well, how could I do what you did? And like, what, you know, it's like, the way I did this doesn't even make sense anymore to what the world is. And when I start talking about it, it's so easy to get into that thing of just like, I don't know if I'd have it in me. Like, I wonder if I was starting now, how I'd see the way to break out.
Like, would you take your own advice of like, just go do it? You don't know if you would.
I'd like to think I would.
Yeah.
How hard is it to, how old are you again?
25.
25. Jesus Christ. It's so hard to try to explain the world I grew up in versus the world everybody grows up in.
Because I imagine there was one point where, you know, somebody was like, oh, video game podcasts, what a novel idea, right? Because like there weren't a million. Yeah. You know, and like back probably when you first started, like I don't know if video game podcasts were already a thing or not, but
I mean,
like,
it was limited. It was IGN as KFA, it was GameScoop, it was One Up Show, it was that was like pretty much it.
Yeah, and so like right now it is it's difficult, and like once again to the quitting question, right? Like if I was doing this only to grow numbers, I would have quit.
Yeah, totally.
I would have quit probably a while ago.
And that's the hardest thing, and you know it. You obviously are cut from the same cloth, right? And I think, you know, obviously we all are kind of funny, but like especially Andy right now with the Twitch thing, where going home and creating something in your off hours, whether it be Twitch, whether it be OK Beast, whether it be when I was Twitch streaming, right, when I was still at IGN, or you know, or Oration or anything for the original Game Over Greggy channel. It was the idea that I wasn't doing it to blow up. I was doing it because I enjoyed making it. Right? Like the hobby is games and creation. Like, so it's like that thing of getting out there and Twitch streaming for a dozen or 50 people or whatever. It's like, awesome. I'm just doing this to fuck around and learn how all these tools work and see what it is.
When you first were doing youtube.com/GameOverGreggy and doing like your own thing, was that like, was the end goal like, I'm going to make this big, I'm going to make this like its own thing, I'm going to turn this into what'll eventually become kind of funny? Or was it just like, I'm going to do a fun thing on the side, you know, and enjoy it? And
the story goes, I just needed a creative outlet. Like, I had been at IGN at that point when I started at 5 years. And it was, I loved and, you know, appreciated, never stopped. But like, you know, you talk about with crunch conversations a lot. For me, it was that I'd go to IGN and work all day and then come home and work all night, or go back to the office and work. Or, you know, there's a story, the infamous story of me and Damon out at a bar and like closing it down. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go back to the office and capture SmackDown clips. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I just like fucking playing wrestling games and I'd rather get ahead of it. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to make that much work. And that was great and awesome. But at some point, 5 years in, it would be that thing of, I remember like at night having a sense of dread of opening Twitter. Because it would be that thing of, if you open Twitter and there's a news story, especially about PlayStation, right? It was like, fucking get out of bed and open the computer and see if the UK team's on. Is this happening? Is Goldfarb up? Is anyone cooking? I'll write it. I'll talk to this. It was just like, that sucked. It was good, but it sucked. I like that. I liked having those connections, but I didn't necessarily like always working for one thing. And then it was that I didn't have anything that was my own. So like, you make something and somebody notes it to death or changes the vision, or Fran just talks to you in general, and you get mad. So like finding, YouTube the way I did through VidCon and finding out that it was this creative outlet, the goal was to make Winging It with Greg Miller, a show where I would travel the United States, go to PAX, and then stay an extra day on my own dime and go to a wing restaurant.
That's awesome.
And make
That's
a
great.
YouTube wing show about
That's
what
amazing.
it was, right?
Yeah.
And the problem was, like, I had that idea literally in the John Wayne Airport, right? Tim, isn't that where it was? Which airport is that VidCon's by? SNA? Is that John Wayne? I think that's John Wayne. I think I'm right. All right, cool. And in there talking to Tim, Nick, and Fran about it, where I'm like, this is awesome. I want to make my own YouTube channel, blah, 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 blah. And like saying, I wanted to do this and this, and I want to make this wing show, but I know I don't know how to edit video. I don't know how to use the camera. I don't know how to use lights. I don't know how to use YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was that idea of like, I'll make little shows to learn how to do it and then make that show. And so it was, I'll make Conversation with Colin and I'll make Oration. And so then we started doing that, and it was like Tim and Nick would come over and work for pizza. You know what I mean? And like, I remember that first check we got for $100 after like 5 months, because it was like they wouldn't pay you to got $100.
Yeah.
And I remember asking like Tim, Nick, and Colin, like, how do you want to split the money or whatever? And Tim and Nick were immediately like, you guys, you're on camera, you can split the money, just keep giving us pizza. And we would do it enough, and we started having enough fun, and we started, doing more and more of it, that eventually it was that conversation in the car, like, what if we did a podcast, and what if we did that? And that became a Game Over Greggy. But it was such a slow thing, and again, when you start making your own content and you start seeing the returns on AdSense and everything else, you're like, it'll take me 30 years of doing this to ever make it work.
Yeah.
And so like, we, again, similar to the way of my career of getting into IGN was lucky, like leaving or building when we started building, and then running into Patreon. We ran into Patreon right after they got launched, right? Like when they were really starting to become a thing and getting to be like that first breakout success story, that was awesome. But it's so hard now to replicate that, right?
Yeah.
It was that thing of it was us, and then it was Danny, and it was Easy Allies, and then, like for a second it looked like Inside Gaming was going to do it, but they became Funhouse and all these different things. Like even now it seems like when you see creators you already know and love start something, it's way harder to get that value behind it. So like even there, like, right, you're talking now about what, 4 years? In 4 years it's changed that much that I can't even imagine. Like if our whole thing with it was we left when we left, on the idea that if we don't do this now, we're always going to look back and regret it, like what could have been. And so to be here 4 years later, and like if we were still at IGN, which easily could be, and I'd be thrilled. I love IGN, don't get me wrong. But to be there and look back and be like, man, it's funny because we were at that moment right before Easy Allies did it, right? Like what if we had done it then? Like you think it would have worked? Would it have been a big deal? Like there's a weird alternate universe there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So for you, and I mean, this might be like a question that like maybe you want to keep to the chest, but like, bring on a new employee someday, or bring on new employees someday, right? Like, what is it that you look for, right? I think you mentioned before, right? Like looking at people in the community and people coming up and all this stuff. But like, what are the qualities that you're searching for?
I mean, self-starter, dedication, that they fit in and are well liked. Obviously, you know what I mean. Team players, kind of thing. It's the idea of, I remember the hardest part about it was when we broke away and started thinking about it was I was so, Barrett, if you don't fucking fix this back wall, I will fire you right now. I just talked about dedication. I'm kidding, Barrett. Don't worry about it. It was this idea, right, that I thought we'd have to hire hosts. I thought the next hire would be another host for a podcast or another thing for this. And it wasn't. When you start thinking of it that way, it became, well, how does a return on investment that way work? Like, how do you make any of that actually click, right? Because there's so many things happening here, and we all wear so many hats that how could we possibly hire somebody who is just here to do one show, is just here to do two shows? Like, that just doesn't make sense. And so, as I talked about in Andrea's show, right, like, her and Danny coming in as contractors was really what turned on the light switch for me of like, oh, man, like, we can bring in people like that who come in and host the shows that we need help on or want help on. And like, I imagine there's a future coming where people similar to Andrea or Danny are pitching us shows and working with us on shows similar to like what Jared would have been with Debatable if he wasn't a fucking quitter. Or I guess I fired him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course.
But it, like that idea. But then like for when we grab a Barrett or an Andy or a Joey, right? Like it was very much like Barrett was, I think our first hire where I think we were able to have an honest conversation, at least from maybe me. And again, I'm naive. You know that. Nick and Tim are the real adults back there. We're all adults in different ways. But Nick is an adult in a very specific way. But when we brought Barrett in, I remember telling him like, these are the responsibilities that we're putting on paper. Like it's going to be more than this. And it's going to be all these different, you need to go with that flow and fill in those gaps for us. Cause I think Andy got hired right for party mode and like editing and making a really cool multiplayer show. But it wasn't the idea that he would be doing KFAF, right? That was like something that could happen, of course, whatever. We want all these opportunities to be open, but that wasn't on the original job doc, right? And so to get into this space, like, and use it the way it is, for us, it is that you have to be able to do so many different things. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing is you got to be versatile. You got to have ideas. You got to, what I want when I talk to people is for them to tell me how it's going to work. I want you to come in and talk to me about what shows you want to do and how on a daily basis you would help and what things you can go do. Hey, Kev, the wall's doing this weird black thing.
It sure is.
And see, like, that's the thing. Like, Kevin,
Self-starter.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. Don't even get me started on Kevin being a self-starter. How much do you think it's heat related?
You never know.
No, I never know.
It is so hot.
I know. But you're having fun, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm over here taking notes.
Yeah. That's fun. What other question do you have? Again, this is the thing I would never.
What's it like being Greg Miller?
That's a weird question. What regard?
I mean, like, being like.
Well, hey, let me stop you. Actually, let me stop you. This is another one for me, if you don't mind. Who is Greg Miller to you?
I mean, I see you as like one of the faces of. I want to say games media, but I don't know if do you consider yourself at this point games media?
Yeah,
You're just
I mean,
like
it's such a weird swatch now. You know what I mean? Like, what else? I mean, we are influencers, sure.
Yeah.
We are YouTubers and podcasters, whatever. I would still say games media for the most part.
Yeah. So I then that's how I see you, right? I see you as one of the faces of games media. I see you as a dude with this huge voice and in this huge reach, who's the lead of the successful company and as I point
my favorite company. Funny. Barrett. No, nobody cares. This is this is the most. Hey, he's like, I want to work here one day. We're like, here you go. You're in a 900-degree oven and the wall's not working.
Yeah, you know what Kevin's doing right now? He's pulling the refrigerator out of the kitchen right now to go into the back side of this guy right now.
Yeah, the fridge hides a door that when you can open, and then you go in here, and there's about 6 inches between the wall and the wall.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, so he's got to go there now and do whatever.
Like a foot.
It's like a foot?
This is so interesting.
Dude, this is how the sausage gets made here. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
Of course, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Greg Miller. So like, does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah,
it does. I think it's not going to be a fun answer, but it's back to just being imposter syndrome. Yesterday, I'm sitting there at I'm standing in the back at the Last of Us thing, right? Before they start showing the game even. It's a presentation that's going to start it. And they don't have enough chairs, so I'm just standing in the back. And Andrea was sitting next to Jeff Kanata talking. And I was like, oh, I don't want to interrupt them. I don't want to go over there and do that. And I'm like, oh, and then Jeff Keighley walked in late. And I was like, oh. I'm like, should I go say hi to Jeff? I don't know. I shouldn't say hi. And like, I know Jeff. But you get in your head of like, well, he's very busy and I don't want to go over. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be a problem if I looked at myself and was like, I think people think that I feel like I have all of this power or Green Lantern powers or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm some kind of Superman.
a literal Superman.
Yeah, and it's not at all what I think of myself. You know what I mean? Like, again, like to the point of the whole up and comer thing, like bringing on the guests in 2018, that took a long. I wasn't until the end of the year that I really accepted the fact that, like, oh, it is cool and it is a big deal to come on the show and do it. Right? You know what I mean? Because I think it's the same thing we talked about earlier of like, we put out this show every day. And so some days are 10,000 views on YouTube and some days are 75,000. And I wish there was more 75,000 days. And why aren't there more 75,000? And so like, do people understand? Is there an audience? How many people are blah, blah, blah? And it's like, you start noting yourself that and you compare yourself to everybody else, right? Because again, like our friends at Funhouse right there on the wall, right? They like fart out a video and it's got 3 million views or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck. All right. Well, that's real success. But then I'll talk to them and they don't get the opportunities or the things we get because we're trying to do a different thing than they are. And that's the hardest part of it all is like, there's no easy way to compare yourselves to anybody. Right. And I do get FOMO when I see something else happening and that we're not at, or we weren't invited to, or, I worry about like now what the industry thinks of us in terms of like, are they sellouts? Are they this? Are they that? But like when PlayStation doesn't send us a game, or like when I'm like trying to get you to come down to see Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, sorry, it's very limited. And I get down there and there's all these empty chairs. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I was telling them it was for kind of funny content. You know, like there's little things like that of like, I still feel like I felt when I started in this industry. You know what I mean? Of like every day's a gift, and I need to work as hard as possible to make it all happen. But then it's this weird thing of wrestling with the fact that I do get to help, you know, or I get to be the face of a company that brings people up and gives people jobs and does all these different things. And that's hard to wrestle with, right? Because it's that other thing of like, even with Andrea, right? Like I think We Have Cool Friends, and then the lunch afterwards. Actually, I guess it was after we did the Destiny episode and we went out with Luke Smith. And like Luke was talking about it and Andrea was talking about it. And in the same way, like the internet and Twitter and comments are usually negative or whatever, I feel for the most part, conversations with your friends and peers are like that, right? To an extent where it's not like, how many times does somebody tell you that your show is great or you're doing a great job or what? You know, you're talking to your friends, so you're bullshitting around about other stuff and whatever. So as Andrea was saying goodbye to us on so many different things and like having this conversation with like Luke, who's got his first time ever being here, he's talking about us. Andrea's echoing all that. And it's like that thing of like, oh, fuck, like, I guess we do something cool. You know what I mean? And like to hear her talk about what she wants to accomplish with what's good versus what we've accomplished already with Kind of Funny, like, and like how we could never be. It's like, holy shit! Like I don't think of us that way. And I still in this. It's so crazy that like we've tricked the industry into thinking we're something, but I guess we're doing it right. You know what I mean? And like that's the whole long and short of it. And back to that comment of like, all we can be is ourselves, right? From the day one, we talked about like what the ethics policy was, and it's that you'll know everything. Like authenticity is everything to us. And so like it is hard when I go on the subreddit and like something's happened or something got said and people are taking it away that I'm like, how could you listen to me ever and think I would mean it that way? Like clearly that's not, you know, I mean, I have to be better about that and I have to shore it up. But then I know that like I share it up too much and I say the same thing over and over. People are like, we already knew. It's like, it's such a balancing act of trying not to let people down, but then also realizing you have to.
You're on a podcast every day. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I talk for hours and hours and hours a day, right? And so I say a lot of dumb stuff and I repeat the same phrases. You know what I mean? Quite a bit. So it's a weird thing of. At the long and short of it is like, you know, last night at 2:30, Portillo tried to jump off the bed, and so I had to take him outside, but I wanted to pee first, so I peed, and then I walked out to get dressed, and I was like, wait, why does it smell like shit? He fucking pooped in the hallway and ate part of it already. Fucking cheese. You know what I mean? Like, that's who Greg Miller is. That's what being Greg Miller is like. That, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's I don't know. I always said I'd work at IGN as long as it was my number one passion, and when Kind of Funny came around and slowly became the number one passion, that's what this became. And so, yeah, like, I'm going to fucking do weird day trips to LA and do all, you know, like we're doing employee reviews here soon. Things keep getting in the way. But I was reading the feedback, you know, because everybody talks about everybody anonymously. And I'll only obviously violate my own. But for me, it was the thing of like, you know, take a vacation day. Some people are saying like, take a day off and do this kind of thing. And it's just like, I just don't know how. And I don't mean to then have that reflect on everybody in a negative way. I don't want it to be like a crunch culture of like, well, Greg's working this hard. Everybody's got to work that hard. No, fucking everybody should. But it's like, again, I think I have a different role here than Barrett does. You know what I mean? Like I think I know that I shoulder more responsibility than Cool Greg does, and not in a way that like I'm saying these guys don't do their work. Yeah. I'm saying that my responsibility is them. You know, my responsibility is
you have to keep the ship afloat.
Exactly. You know? Not even keep it afloat, right? I want to keep this ship moving so fucking fast that your dream comes true. You know what I mean? That's what it is to me. You know, I got how many letters in my inbox right now from people saying they want to work here one day. You know what I mean? They want to be editors and how they do this. And it's like, I want all these people. You know what I mean? I want that when Roger's ready, there's a job for him here because he's been so good to us. You know what I mean? And I want when Snowbike Mike's ready or wants to, there's something for him here. Like, I want that. And I want that for the dozens of other people listening right now that I haven't seen by name that have come out and are going to be hosting PAX panels for us and doing this different thing. Like, our future, right, is growing smartly and bringing in the right people to carry that torch forward. You know what I mean? Bringing in people who, I know that, you know, Andrea and I had a conversation, We Have Cool Friends, about aging out of the industry. You know, obviously it's different for her versus me because there's a double standard. But there is a standard that, like, I don't know if there, you know, the amount of kids, I call you all kids, right? That come up to me now and are like, dude, been listening to you forever. And we're at a bar drinking. I'm like, oh, that's awesome win. Like 6th grade, started listening to Knocking Boots. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think there's going to be a 6th grader looking to hear from 40-year-old Greg Miller anymore. There's going to be a whole bunch of Kind of Funny best friends that have been along for the ride or new similarly aged people, right? Like when Jen and I start having kids and I start podcasting about that, there's going to be a whole new wave of people who are like, oh man, I connect with that because that's where I'm at in my life. But I never want us to move so far away that like we don't have people here who are contemporary. We need people on staff like Barrett who can tell me what Liddy means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, you don't know what Liddy means?
I did not.
Yo, it's Liddy.
You never heard this story?
Yeah.
I think I have.
Yeah,
heard it,
I had to text Roger Porconi. I'm like,
Oh,
what's Liddy mean? Am I being fucked with right now? Because I don't think that's a real thing. I know what lid is.
Hashtag not Liddy. Hashtag Liddy.
Not Liddy. Yeah. Does that answer your question, I guess?
Yeah, that does answer my question.
Because I feel like that's even like, what is Greg Miller and all this different stuff. It still feels, how fucking weird does it feel to talk about yourself and try to like rationalize anything good you've done? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't. The internet's not a nice place to everybody. You know what I mean?
No.
That's the thing. Like, that's what I'm looking for, right? That's what I'm trying to make happen. Don't even
Yeah.
look at the wall. Don't even
I'm
pay
trying not
attention
to,
to the wall.
but it's so interesting on the ways in which it's breaking.
Like the wall's duplicating itself and blurring and stuff. Like everybody's having a stroke over here. I don't know what's happening. We're getting there. There's stuff on the wall. That's what we needed. All right, I don't care. Do you have any other questions from a week of being here almost?
I mean, I've talked to you guys so much at this point that like, I feel like I've asked I just got back from lunch with Tim, and I feel like I've asked him like all I could even like think of to ask him.
Yeah.
But I guess I'd ask. You talk a lot about bringing on new people and highlighting new voices and what the future looks like. But I do want to know, like, aside from that, right? Like, how do you want to see? In what ways do you want to see Kinda Funny get better? Aside from just bringing on like new people.
I mean, for new people and being the right people are the same conversation, because the way I want to see it get better is that I want everyone here to have the job they focus on be the job they focus on. What their job title is, I want their job to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want that to happen. Like we hired Barrett, right? Because, hey, we're shit at our social. We need somebody to come in here. I'd love breakout videos, and I'd love this, that, and the other, and I'd love original content, right? And I do believe the first week he was able to do that. And he was able to do the persona thing for the introduction of himself here, blah, blah, blah. And now he's fucking running the board.
Yeah.
Not being able to do what he was brought on to do.
I did it for the first 2 weeks.
I apologize,
There
sir.
you go.
My hat's off to you. And he still does tons of breakout, and don't get me wrong, and all this different stuff. But I know from even talking to him, he does not have the bandwidth to do it the way he wants to do it, which then, of course, inevitably leads to an employee feeling down because they're not accomplishing what they want to accomplish at work, right?
Yeah.
Which is a struggle. So it's that idea of how to bring that on. It's the idea of how to get it so that Kevin is only doing this kind of thing or whatever, or we have producers in here who are only doing this thing, to see the living nightmare of not the wall.
Oh, okay.
I'm pointing more to Joey. The living nightmare of physical Patreon fulfillment, right? Like I have in my inbox right now 4 or 5 different kids who are still trying to get their Marvel t-shirts. And it's like, it's not Joey failing. It's a million different things she's doing. Then the fact that post office loses shit, the fact that this happened. And like, so it's just this like constant thing of trying to nail down Jello for that, but we also need her to do X, Y, Z. Like, or she's your main point of contact. She booked all your stuff. She took care of all this. She's also like helping out. Like, she looks ahead and like, all right, cool. You're all working crazy days. I'm gonna make sure everybody gets lunch, which none of us would have done, and then we all would have been cranky and pissed off about. She looks at my schedule on last Friday and was like, Greg's on too many shows. I'm preemptively hitting up Imran and taking him off of this. And it's like, it's all those little things that we all make each other's life better. But because we all are upstarts and wanting to take care of each other and do this, but in doing that, it also makes your life harder because I'll help out anybody. You know what I mean? Like I probably, as CEO in quotes, shouldn't be the guy that I'm on the subreddit being like, "Fuck, you still don't have your shirt? All right, email me. We'll fix this. What's your address? I'm chasing." And like that needs to get done, and someone needs to tackle that and make sure it's happening. But it's like clearly, I also need to be doing 15 other things, and so that's the thing is like. The way I want us to grow is the way that we bring in the right people that come in and make it easier for each other. You know what I mean? Like I always would have thought that, the hires after the first or after Kevin, right, would have been more hosts. But it was in fact like, no, we need more support roles. Yeah. And so now that I feel like we've kind of we've gotten that to a certain thing, it is about bringing in hosts, but it's about bringing in hosts who will be the support roles as well. Because that's the same thing as like in the same way all of us walk off and then have our other jobs to do. Yeah. Like, whether it's me planning or me talking to PR and me trying to get review copies, Tim doing the ads, Tim talking to sales contacts, Nick doing all the HR stuff, Andy editing party mode or making a graphic or doing whatever. Like all that takes time away from what you're supposed to be doing or what you think you should be doing. And so it's about bringing in those people. That's the way it'll go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Anytime.
I know this flipped. I know this is supposed to be an interview show about me, but I figured
No, it's whatever. Now we're just like, Blessing's better interviewing Greg. I want to jump into the friend zone where we have questions pulled from patreon.com/kindafunny where you can get this show ad-free. But before I do that, I want to tell you about our sponsors.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of Kinda Funny in Review is brought to you by HoneyBook. If you run your own business, you're used to doing it all. But if you're struggling to get through your to-do list, HoneyBook can help. When you started your business, did you dream about all those admin tasks like drafting proposals and contracts? Nick and Craig, did we? No. Do we like doing that at all? No. My friend Darren started his own business, and he's been using HoneyBook. He really likes it a lot. It helps you kind of just do a lot of the admin stuff that nobody really wants to do.
Nobody wants to do that.
HoneyBook is an online business management tool that organizes your client communications, bookings, contracts, invoices, all in one place. HoneyBook makes it simple to run your business better. Professional templates, e-signatures, built-in automation keeps everything on track and makes you look good. They can consolidate services you already use, like QuickBooks, Google Suite, Excel, MailChimp, Gmail, all the stuff. We should probably get on this, guys.
Yeah, probably.
You can save time and do more of what you love with HoneyBook. Right now, HoneyBook is offering you guys 50% off when you visit honeybook.com/morning. Payment is flexible, and this promotion applies whether you pay monthly or annually. You can go to honeybook.com/morning for 50% off your first year. That's honeybook.com/morning. Also, shout out to Hims. 66% of men start to lose their hair by age 35. And once you notice thinning hair, it can be too late. It's a good thing that both Andy and Nick realized soon enough. They've been working on this, and how's that been working out?
Fantastic,
Love it.
Tim. Love it.
How easy was it?
Very, very easy. Take a couple pictures on your phone, upload them to the website, get a response fairly quickly. Like I'd say within a business day, maybe. I don't know. What does the copy say?
I don't know exactly what
It was super fast. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, here's what we recommend. Take this, blah, blah, blah. They send you the thing. It's great.
Was there an awkward doctor visit?
No, God, no. You just had
Wow.
to read an email. It was awesome.
Was there snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements?
There were no snakes. I hate them.
Wow. Were there prescription solutions backed by science?
Yes.
Wow. What
Yes,
a deal.
Tim. Actually, yes.
My listeners can get started with Hims Complete Hair Kit for just $5 today, right now while supplies last. See website for full details and safety information. This could cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy somewhere else. Go to forhims.com/KFMS. That's FORHIMS.com/KFMS. Forhims.com/KFMS. And finally, shout out to Upstart. As most of us have found out the hard way, getting into debt, it's easy. Getting out,
Hard.
there we go. Especially if your credit score isn't great. Thankfully now there's Upstart.com, the revolutionary lending platform that knows you're more than just your credit score and offers smarter interest rates to help you pay off high interest credit card debt. Greg, could this have helped you back in the day?
It could have, as everyone knows, when I moved to San Francisco, I took out a loan, and it was not a good rate. This would have been better to have this rate.
Upstart goes beyond the traditional credit score.
Men came after my kneecaps.
Lots of people have
free mortgages these days.
They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter interest rate. Upstart believes you're more than just your credit score. They believe in you, and they understand that. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate in just a few minutes. And the best part is once the loan's approved and accepted, most people get their funds the very next business day. Free yourself from the burden of high-interest credit card debt and get on this, baby. See why Upstart's ranked #1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot. And hurry to upstart.com/morning to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes and won't affect your credit. That's upstart.com/morning. UPSTART.com/morning.
All right, Blessing. It's time to go into the friend zone. This is, of course, people on patreon.com/kindafunny. New year coming on the show. Wrote in with questions here. Toby writes in to patreon.com/kindafunny and says, first of all, you're killing it, Blessing.
Thank you.
You deserve a permanent spot here. You mentioned on Kinda Funny Games Daily the lack of black characters in video games. Can you explain what representation means to you and why it's important?
So
Another thing we talk about a lot at Kinda Funny, and
Yeah.
then everybody's like, really should have had a black person on this show. I'm like,
yeah, dude, like I find it so special when I get to play a game that has somebody that looks like me in that game, because I know, like, for a lot of people, right, like it might just be this thing that you don't think about or that doesn't matter to you because, like, you know, a lot of people, like, I mean, white men are represented in a lot of games, right? But I think for people that don't necessarily see that all the time, that creates people to connect to, right? I know growing up, I was, and this is gonna sound off, but like when I was like, I think 13, actually it's not gonna sound that off, but at like 13 or 14, I was a big fan of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Sure.
Because like I felt like the culture in that game was something that. Granted, I'm not a gangster. I'm not out here shooting people on Grove Street. But like from the music to like how the characters looked, how the characters behave, felt like something I could connect to in a way that I'd never connect to in a game before. Because these were people that reminded me of people that I had grown up with, or people that I went to school with, or people like certain friends of mine, right? Like that. I think that stuff is special, especially from the standpoint of like having a kid that can look at a game and be like, I see that person and they're like me. That means that I could grow up to be like that person, And like it's very much like a thing of like, I get the response of like, why can't they have that thought about a white person? But it is very different. Just because we've seen how people have been treated. We've seen people treated unfairly, whether it is because of their gender, or because of their sexuality, or because of the color of their skin, or whatever it may be. And so I just find that I find representation very important in that sense. And I enjoy the fact that it seems like as time goes, things are getting better and better, right? And like I mentioned this very like briefly for like half a second on Games Daily during the episode with Xavier, where I was like, dude, bring on more black creators into studios so that black characters can be created authentically. And that goes for, like any sort of person, any type of person, right? Bring on more gay creators so that gay creators or gay characters can be created more authentically. Like I think that's the way to do it. And it seems to me that the games industry has been and is continuing to get better at doing that.
Yeah, that's the hope,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's I think for as much as people will want to be like, this again, keep your politics out of games, yada yada. It is that if you're not talking about it, then you're not encouraging anybody, and nothing's changing.
Yeah,
and that's the hope, right? Is that even though, when it'll be dice or it'll be whatever, and it'll be, well, oh man, there's only been 3 women on stage. There's only been 2 people of color on stage. You hope and knock on wood it happens. Those numbers go up every year because as somebody is watching from home and sees that, they go, I can do this, right? As they're trying to figure out their career, they go, I can do this.
Yeah. And it feels like. Or it's a great way to bring down barriers, whether it is like, just believing in myself, right? Sure. By seeing people who look like me on stage, right? Or literal like barriers of people in positions of power misusing that power, and not allowing people with certain voices to come through, right? It's breaking all that stuff down, allowing diverse voices to come up. I think that's important. And I think we're seeing it be done, and so like, yeah.
I mean, the fact that like you're about to have Last of Us 2, right? This game that is from Sony's crown jewel. It's on the biggest platform. It's all this different stuff, and it's led by a female, a lesbian, right?
Yes.
Named Ellie, who's able to go out and this be her story,
Yeah.
right? And most people are okay with that,
Yeah.
and the ones who aren't can fuck off.
And and Ellie is a character that we all love and that we all care about, right? And so for the fact that she's represented in a way that seems like it's going to be pretty good. Like, I think that's fantastic. And I think that's going to mean a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I also, the hope I would say, even if it's not that a black character or a gay character or a trans character doesn't represent you are just a white male like myself or whatever. The hope there, right, is that if it's done right and it's done well, it gives you that moment of being in their shoes and understanding that, right? Like,
yeah.
That was the power of Gone Home.
Yeah.
Was reading those letters and being like, holy fuck. Like, to have something so personal and true and touching, right? Like,
yeah, it creates better stories. It creates better narratives. It creates, like, when I say more diverse stories, I don't just mean like diverse in terms of race or sexuality or whatever it may be, right? I mean diverse as in literally like these stories. Like, once again, granted that I was San Andreas, right? It's just, it is a story about gangsters, in LA or whatever. But like, even so, right? Because they're focusing on the specific culture, it allowed them to tell a story of that culture, right? And so if you're tackling different subject matter is going to give birth to new ideas, give birth to new scenarios, give birth to new stories. And I think that is entertaining for all of us,
Yeah, 100%. DH Canada writes into patreon.com/kindafunny and says, also, hey, shout out to DH Canada who brought those Kinda Funny signs to Raw and SmackDown.
Oh, nice.
Thank you very much. Except for the KFAF one. That one sucked. For blessing. If you became a full-time member of the Kinda Funny Gamescast, what character would you make Andy draw you as in the intro?
I love this question. That's an interesting one. Sonic probably.
Oh, wow.
'Cause-
Wow.
Although, yeah, that would look messed up, wouldn't it?
Too late. Too
That
late.
would
It's
look
done.
messed up.
I want everybody to draw a blessing as Sonic. I don't care.
I was
Everyone
I was
needs
Someone
originally
hit up
gonna
Matt Ferguson.
I was originally gonna say Donkey Kong, but I was like, that would be taken way the wrong way. Especially having just having that conversation after having that.
It'd be great if
conversation.
you had the conversation off camera, and
Yeah.
then when we showed it, you guys were like, "Are you fucking serious?"
Yeah, it's like, why would you do that? Yeah, Sonic or maybe Link. You guys haven't done Link yet, right?
I don't think there's been a link
No.
Yeah, Link would be awesome.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
though. Let's get back to reality. Mitch writes in to patreon.com/kindafunny. It says, for blessing, when working on OK Beast, what do you consistently consider the most difficult impediment in growing your brand, and how do you find a way to overcome it?
Oh, most difficult impediment. Probably trying to grow a show that is literally every other gaming show that's out there, right? Like the OKB's podcast, I think is the best thing that we do. But at the same time, if people wanted a conversation about video games from four dudes that's tackling impressions, news, then questions, you can go to Kinda Funny, you can go to Giant Bomb, you can go to IGN, you can go to GameSpot, you can go literally anywhere for that type of content. And for people that are doing it at probably maybe a higher quality, people who are more ingrained in the industry, people who are doing it better, and so that is definitely a difficult part of it. Other than that, I guess just growth in general, right? And it's one of those things of balance. Also, like we did this thing where. Late last year, we launched our podcast called Nuke This, which was a Fallout 76 podcast. We call them limited run podcasts. This is a thing we try to like create where we do podcasts 6 episodes at a time, or do just a 6 episode season of a podcast. So we're like, okay, cool. We'll make this Fallout 76 podcast. It's gonna be 6 episodes. It's gonna be great, and we're gonna bring a new audience because of it. And Fallout 76 came out, and it flopped, and that podcast was a waste of everybody's time. And so that was frustrating. And we did the same thing with Anthem, and we did the same thing with Apex Legends. And I think that was very much a learning experience of if. It's smart to make content about a specific thing because the more unique and the more niche you can get, the more you can probably find an audience doing that. Definitely just don't make niche podcasts about everything because that is going to burn you out.
Make sure it's a proven thing.
Yeah, make sure it's a proven
from
thing.
the start this is gonna knock it out of the park.
And that was our thing. We're leading up to Anthem. We'd already announced it and we were already planning it because we had made that an extra life goal the previous fall. And so we're like, okay, cool. We'll do this Anthem podcast because we all planned to play Anthem. And then leading up to Anthem, we were like, this game is making us worried. We don't know how this is gonna pan out. And then Apex Legends came out of nowhere and we started playing it and we were like, this game is awesome. We would much rather just do this. But since we had already announced the Anthem podcast, we were like, okay, let's just do both. And one that led to a lot of people being like, you guys do a lot of podcasts, which is fair. But then that also
Preaching
led
to the choir on that one.
Yeah. And then it led to a lot of burnout and us being like, okay, we're doing a lot. We need to calm down. And so for us, I guess picking and choosing and trying to figure out how to grow in smart ways and also the right ways. I think all of that has been a challenge, but it's also been a great learning experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Kale Dolphincorn writes in patreon.com/kindafunny with the final question. And it says, for blessing, what's it like having such a dope ass name?
It's great.
Did you always love it? Blessing, not a common name.
I mean, I probably loved it more as a kid than I do now.
Really?
Yeah, because now I'm just like I feel like the older I get, the more people are willing to make puns with my name, which is fine. I get that it's the name of the game. I get that that's what happens when my name is Blessing. And some of them are clever. But yeah, it's my dad's name, so I'm Blessing Jr. I mean, that's where the junior comes from, right? And it's been interesting, right? I mostly enjoy it because it kind of does separate me a little bit, and it does. Me and my dad had a conversation about this and about why he decided to name me Blessing is because when people see names on a list, they see Blessing and think that pops out to them,
sure.
Right? They think something different about that person. They pull that name to the side. And my dad was telling me yeah, dude, rep that name. That name's going to separate you. And it was definitely a Mufasa Simba kind of thing of this is the world is yours because I'm passing on this name to you or whatever. And so it's awesome because of that. The puns are less awesome, but go for it. I won't be mad if you make fun of my name.
Yeah, I think it's a great name. It's one of those. It's a name that fits you. You know what I mean in terms
Thank
of
you.
like you're blessing. Yeah, bless. Whatever. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it makes sense. I think
Yeah.
100%. Not to mention like how it matches your personality and who you are, and then in an industry where we're talking about how hard it is to get noticed and stand out.
Yeah.
I think it helps.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Blessing, for coming in and doing this Up and Comer week with us.
Of course.
We still have so much more work we're gonna put on your shoulders, but I think you can handle it. We'll eventually let you sleep at some point.
Thank you. I would really appreciate sleep.
Blessing, where can everybody keep up with you?
You can keep up with me on Twitter at Blessing Jr. That's at Blessing JR. I make content for okbeast.com. You can go watch our videos, youtube.com/okbeast. Check out the Okbeast podcast on any of your podcast services of choice. Rate us on iTunes. And yeah, I'll stop there because I know I shouldn't pimp too much.
Too much, then it's just
Yeah,
gibberish. Nobody listens.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been We Have Cool Friends. Remember, each and every Monday, we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. Sometimes the room is cool. Today's not one of those days. Rate, subscribe. It's new. You know, everything he just said about us, too, okay? Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure to serve you.